I don't think I'll get any notifications from anything else. I'll just keep the taskbar open. It doesn't matter. The only things you can see in the taskbar are Chrome, Skype, and OBS.
For sure.
But anyway, I started recording.
All right.
So let me go to the actual list that I made. Because you said assume... Oh shit, I opened Skype. Hold on. I'm bad. So anyway. You said assume there's no budget. And
Yeah, let's assume, figure out what best case scenario is, and then work from there.
Yeah, and this was the build I made for like a... I wouldn't necessarily call it a best case scenario, but I would call it like the highest end practical computer you could make that is going to be a streaming machine. Like I've seen some people when they upgrade their computers, it'll end up having like an 18 core Xeon, and it's like that doesn't really help you at all in streaming over something that already has 8 cores or anything like that. So
Okay, oh my god, holy shit.
yeah, that's how the whole build is fairly expensive. The
Wow.
here's the thing about all this. If you built this whole computer, chances are you probably wouldn't need to upgrade for unless you were trying to keep up with like the newest graphics card. That was like a serious incremental jump. You probably wouldn't be upgrading anything in here for at least 5 years. Like that processor will serve you for probably about 5 years, but it will last much longer, just based on its ability to function.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know some people still have processors from like, let me look it up. 2006, 2009, that year time frame of years.
Mm-hmm.
That's my Nexus 6. It's telling me about the Twitter DMs that I already read.
Nice.
There's a frog in my room.
What?
Hold on, give me a second. There's actually a frog in my room. I'll be right back.
That's Florida for you.
For real. Okay, let me... Oh shit, it's going in there. Frog, no. Frog. Okay, sorry about that.
No worries, dude.
I lured the frog into a cardboard box,
Nice.
and I took him outside.
There you go.
It took a little bit more time because I didn't think about putting him in a box, and it ran around under my bed, and I had to pull my bed out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's no bugs in my room, so it would have just died if it stayed in there. But I was able to let it outside, and then it jumped into one of the plants, so we're good. So anyway, where was I? I think I just started with this. So the hardware's really expensive, and it will last you a while. But this is about the maximum you should invest in like a desktop, in a single desktop computer.
Okay.
Aside from storage, you're going to need to be spending on storage for like ever. Especially if you're going to be, if you're streaming, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you want to record your gameplay, put it on YouTube, and you want to like maintain quality.
Yeah.
Like maintain a higher quality than Twitch bitrate. You're going to want to be using XSplit, and you're going to want to be saving your streams to hard drives. And that's going to stack up, especially if you stream every day. And especially if you stream at 1080p 60 FPS. So that's why there's 5 3TB hard drives. They're WD Reds. And I'll get into each individual part a little bit later.
Okay.
But yeah, this is with the 3 monitors, by the way. So if you only bought one, this would go down to about $6,400,
Okay.
$6,300. Which is still a lot of money, but that lets you know that the computer itself isn't actually the most insane expensive part. I'm just showing you. I'll explain why I like selected these monitors, got 3 of them, and then the video cards afterwards. So I'm gonna start with the CPU. So, currently, you, since you don't know much about computers, you probably don't know, about, like, architectures and stuff like that.
No, I
But,
haven't.
basically what's been going on is that every year for, like, the past 5 or 6 years, or 7 years, somewhere in that period of time, Intel's processors have been getting 15% faster. So if you were to put it like as a math metaphor, or 5 to 15% faster depending on what you're doing. So if you were to put it at like as a metaphor, if processor 1, which came out in like 2009, was 100% speed, or like the numerical speed of the processor was 100, the second one would be 105 to 115, because that's 5 to 15% more than 100, and then the next one would be about 5 to 15% higher than 105, and so on. And you would keep doing that to the point where most of the processors nowadays are about 50% to twice as faster, so 50 to 100% faster than the processors that were out 6-7 years ago. So around this time, you're going to start seeing a lot of people upgrading from processors that they've owned 4 to 6 years ago because they feel that the cost is worth it. Now, the thing is, depending on what processor you buy and how it works, or how it performs, you might not need to upgrade depending on what you're doing. So, in Intel CPUs, there are things called cores, which you've probably heard of because every computer device now talks about how many cores the processor has, even though that's not the most important detail. And then in Intel CPUs, there's this thing called threads. And what they've done with threads is basically they were able to, most CPUs used to have 1 thread per core, and Intel was able to put in 2 threads per core. But the thing is, in a way of saying it, the second thread that they added didn't amount to double performance, so it's not like a twice as many cores, even though a lot of people like to treat it that way. But it has added somewhat more, or not somewhat, but significantly more performance to where they're able to make that a separate series from processors without these double threads per core.
Okay.
And this is called hyperthreading. So you're going to want hyperthreading for streaming, not because you're streaming necessarily, but because you're multitasking.
Yeah.
Which means that you'll be able to have more cores and more threads be dedicated for individual aspects of the software you're using. Which means that there's less likelihood that you're going to have bottlenecks in games because your CPU is under too much load to complete a task the way you want it to, especially if you're going to be using monitors that refresh 165 times a second. This is not good because you won't be using your monitor's hardware to the maximum potential.
Okay, so basically the extra thread just allows you to do not quite double as much, but a lot more, especially when you're multitasking.
I would say more like a little bit more. Like,
little bit
for
more?
example, I have a 4690K in my computer, and that is a 4-core processor. And I'm able to game just fine with it. I have it overclocked to 4.6 gigahertz. It's doing great. And then there's the 4790K, which is the i7, which is essentially a 4690K with hyperthreading. So it has 8 threads, while the i5 has 4 threads.
Okay.
And this has amounted to about 30 to 40% performance increase in synthetic benchmarks, and somewhat less depending on which other benchmarks or software you use in other programs.
Okay.
So for a lot of people, they, when they're trying to have certain types of computers where they want hardware optimized for certain programs, so for streaming and gaming, they're going to want hardware that's like, I don't know, trying to think of an example. They want a motherboard that has a feature that would be more useful for gamers, but they would also want it to have hardware that's more useful for streamers as well. But they don't need something that's better for servers, or hosting servers or something like that. So they don't need that. So they don't need something with more cores than the i7 because they don't need to host servers. But because they don't need that greater core amount, they don't need as expensive of a motherboard, which means that they usually get like a motherboard that's a different type to be compatible with the processor. Does this make sense to you?
Not really.
Okay. I'll try to summarize it better. Basically what's going on is that like depending on how much stuff you need to be able to do on your computer, you get more powerful hardware. But we're almost at the maximum that you would get, but anything beyond this is either impractical or not worth the money objectively.
Okay.
But what happens is that you look at the stuff that you have and you're like, I don't need this, I don't need this, I don't need this. And you start taking chips away that essentially will decrease your performance by a negligible amount relative to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Which basically means like, okay, I'm going to buy something that's not as powerful as this, which means that I need to change other parts of my computer because that stuff isn't necessary either. So that's what I'm going to do here.
Okay.
So we can bring this down from $5,000 or $6,000 computer with three $800 monitors. I'm going to bring that down, and hopefully we can get to something that you consider more reasonable.
Okay.
But so going back to the CPU, I can't imagine a world for the next, I would guess, 6 years. Longer if you're going to be streaming all the time, where this CPU will not be able to do what you want it to do for games and streaming simultaneously. This is an 8-core processor, and it's an i7, so it has 16 threads.
Okay.
Most games will not even use 4 cores and 8 threads. Most games won't even use 4 cores and 4 threads. But most games nowadays that are coming out would like to have more than 2 cores. Or 2 cores, 4 threads. So basically, for most games, your CPU will never pass like 40% load. Just gaming at the max settings that the rest of your hardware can handle. Which means that you have a lot of things, a lot of cores and threads left to do other things, like do your streaming, configure it to the highest settings that you want that would be practical to put on Twitch, because obviously, I don't even know if Twitch supports 4K video, but if you wanted to stream at like 4K 60 FPS, you're not going to have to worry about like, oh, my 4-core i7 might not be able to do it because I'm playing a game that would like to use that i7, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're going to the point where it's like even the games that use i7s, so the 4-core 8-thread i7s, you'll still have headroom on this CPU for streaming. And then if you want to have other things open like Twitter or Twitch alerts or instances of your internet browser and all that stuff, that's not going to slow down your game, and that's not going to slow down your ability to render frames in OBS or XSplit, so the stream won't look laggy either to viewers. That's why I selected the CPU ultimately, but depending on how much you're going to do, we can narrow this down. I'm going to open this and click on edit. Part list, go back. Okay, so that's why I selected this processor. So the first thing I want to ask you is, are you going to be you're going to be gaming and streaming simultaneously, because obviously why would you stream on a gaming stream without games? So
exactly.
What I want to know is that, are you somebody who commonly leaves stuff open in the background? Like, do you like not know that Google Chrome, if you have it installed, by default always stays open in the background, so it will consume some of your CPU, some of your RAM?
Yes, I am definitely that person.
And you're somebody who will like go to Task Manager and be like, wow, what are all these things
Exactly.
that are all open? I don't know what most of these things do.
Exactly.
Let me see if I can screen share. Let's see. That's show contacts. Conversation, tools, call, share screens. Yeah, this screen. Hopefully this doesn't cut. Okay, cool. Can you see my stream?
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. OBS and Skype can do it at the same time. Can I get rid of these red lines, please? Plus. Hold on. Let me see if I can get rid of the red bar. So what I was saying was that if you're the kind of person that will leave games open in the background or leave something open in the background either because you don't remember it or because, like, say you're playing League of Legends or a game that has matchmaking and you're waiting to be put in a party or a group, and you want to play a different game until then. So games like League, CS:GO, most of the esports oriented games aren't very demanding, mostly because they want as many people as possible to be able to play the game, so there can be a competitive base. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So most people do not. Most of those games are not very intensive, but obviously every little thing adds up. So even if you're playing a game like League, where you could probably stream it with like a dual-core hyper-threaded processor and like a GPU that's 1/10 as expensive as one of these, you'd probably if you have League open and you're waiting for a queue and you have Google Chrome open and you have Twitch alerts and you have XSplit and all that stuff, we're still talking about like probably less than half of your CPU's under load. But you're going to want to play another game, especially if you're in long queue times or if you're like building, especially if you're in like Team Builder and stuff like that. A lot of streamers are going to play another game while they wait for that stuff to finish. So you don't want to have a game open while you're streaming, waiting for that game to load and then not be able to do anything because you don't have a powerful enough processor. So, and then let's say you want to play a game that's also very demanding that would use like a quad-core i7. So, I think it's called Attila. Oh, I don't know how to type. Yeah, there's a game called Attila Total War where you can see my screen. All of these models are like very detailed, and when you look at like CPU benchmarks, an i5, so like a quad-core 4-thread processor, will not run this game as well as a quad-core 8-thread processor, so an i7. Like, this game really, really likes to eat your CPU alive. Like, all of these models are loaded at like high resolutions even from this far away, and it tries to maintain the appearance of all of them, so there's no like performance shifts, I guess is the best way to put it. And so there doesn't need to be any lag when loading models when you zoom in. Like, have you ever played an MMO where it's like the character quality is really bad because they're far away, and then you get closer to them and it gets more detailed and your game stutters a couple times?
Yeah.
Because it's like trying to load the clothes and the details on the weapon and stuff like that.
Exactly.
This game is a lot more detailed to where it's using a lot of your CPU regardless. So say you wanted to play I don't know, Heroes of the Storm or something, which is not the most optimized game in the world right now on max settings, and you're waiting for a queue to start or a queue to pop, and you want to play Total War Attila during your queues. Stuff like that will eat this CPU alive. Not this CPU, but will eat like i7s alive. So that's why I was suggesting this CPU. And my question to you is that do you think you would do stuff like this? Like have all of these things that I just explained open simultaneously, not necessarily paying the most attention to background processes?
Yeah, I figure, I don't know if I'd be playing like Total War Attila or something like that, but maybe I'd be playing, I don't know, like Far Cry and wanting it to be on really nice settings, or Ark Survival or something like that on really nice settings. I'd probably have some shit open in the background that I forgot about, etc., etc.
I see. I'm trying to look up, see if I can find benchmarks for the game on a 6-core 12-threaded processor.
Mm-hmm.
My mouse is flickering like crazy. Also, for the most part, Total War Attila could probably be optimized better as well. So it doesn't eat up as much of your CPU. But that's like an extreme case scenario. So if you don't think you're going to be using like 8 cores and 16 threads, I can downgrade that. And I can show you how much cheaper you can go. So Intel Core i7 Extreme. Okay. So this is the processor you currently have. That I currently put in your build. It's 8 core 16 threads. This is a 6 core 12 thread, and this is also a 6 core 12 thread. So you would be losing 2 cores and 4 threads. But you'd be saving $620.
Mm-hmm.
So as you can see, it's like a diminishing return for what you're getting.
Yeah.
Do you know what the specs of your CPU are currently?
No. Okay, so you know the Blue Corsair, right?
The Blue Corsair?
Yeah, Tyler.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. So my computer that I have right now is like his extra old. It's like this little.
So what you're saying is that I should ask Tyler what his old
Yeah.
CPU specs were?
Yeah.
Or his old
definitely.
PC specs?
Yeah, it's a really old, shitty little thing.
Let me...
He's downstairs. I live with him. I can go grab him if you
Oh,
want.
okay. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, you didn't know he's my roommate?
I didn't know that, no.
Yeah, I live, and you know MK Gringo?
Yeah.
That's my other roommate.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, us three live with each other. Hold on, let me go grab him for you.
Okay. So yeah, hopefully you guys understand where this video is going. It might be a pretty long video. We'll see what else happens. I have a feeling that he's going to end up spending like $2,000 on his computer, which means a lot of this stuff is going to be a lot lower spec. But I think this is a good way to build PCs with people, assuming we started from no budget to something reasonable. That they're not going to spend like $8,000 on hardware they're not going to use, and instead would spend $2,000 on hardware they're going to use like 75% of. That's
right.
Still a lot of money saved.
Hey. Hey.
So I just wanted to know what Joseph's PC specs were. He said that was your old computer?
Yeah, he's using a Mac Mini that I heavily modded. Let me pull
Which
up the
year?
spec. It's a 2000. Well, I mean, it's not worth looking it up because it won't. Everything, like basically all the components in it, I altered.
Oh, okay.
Let me fucking find the some specs for it though, or the hardware. 1 sec. Yeah, so you're building are you trying to build a setup for him?
Yeah, what I've done is that I asked him what his budget was, and then he said assume there was no budget. So my idea with what we were going to do is that I'm going to create like the max possible practical setup for one person to have like a gaming streaming desktop. So
Right.
you can see this hardware is like nuts. And he probably wouldn't need to change anything for like 5 years. We're going to be going down from that. I'm trying to like find out how much he would use, how much he wouldn't use, and just going down and down and down.
The biggest gaming he's gonna do are gonna be games like Arc, as well as a couple of probably FPSs, but nothing that will need nothing that will need really literally like he won't need a CSI or some SCI.
I just want to be able to like stream League and Hearthstone.
Yeah,
and
he
like,
just
things like Far Cry and Ark. I want to be able to stream as well.
Okay, so he's probably not going to do SLI and stuff like that.
No, he's not do SLI. He just needs probably just one, but the best GPU you'd recommend. I mean, he always could do SLI, but even my computer I have downstairs doesn't, and it runs everything on max graphics. So
yeah,
I had a 790 though.
I'm not I'm not running SLI either. I have a 4690 and a 980 Ti. I
Yeah.
wish I had a 4790K,
Yeah.
but overclocking a 4690K to 4.6. That's serving me well.
Okay, so actually, let me pull up full screen to see what you've chose so far. All right, so
This is the max thing that I was talking about, where
right,
it's like,
I know. Okay.
and then I was telling him we could probably downgrade based on what he told me to the 5820K,
right.
which saves him a ton of money. And personally, I don't really. When the 5820K costs this much, there isn't a reason to get a 6700K
Right.
because it costs the same, and it's like slightly stronger 4 cores versus 6 cores, which would be way better for streaming.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there isn't like a 5820 that's locked and costs less. But I thought this would work out anyway.
All right, give me 1 second. I'm gonna pull it. So I had the build that I had on my computer saved on this. I'm gonna send it to you really quickly.
All right.
Because it may. Let's see if I can link to it. Yeah. Because the graphics, the CPU I have on this one, which is a. Oh, actually, yeah. Okay, it was the same per. Oh wait, no, that's yours. Fuck, where's okay? Yeah, so mine was the i7 593 30K 3.5 GHz 6 core, and it was 500, and that's really been good for me. So I don't know if he really needs an 8 core.
Yeah, I didn't think so either after asking him
Okay.
some questions because
Right.
I was asking him like, are you the kind of person that really ignores a lot of background processes? There's a possibility that like while streaming you could end up using like your whole i7 and being like, why do I have 20 FPS in this game?
Yeah. No, most of the time the most he'll be running will be either OBS or XSplit, and then
So this is his current computer?
This is my current. This is not the one he's on right now. This is
Okay.
my base. This is the setup I built last year, basically,
Okay.
or earlier this year. Which to kind of, I guess you can kind of build around it, but this is what this is been adequate for what he's been doing, but he wants a little bit more in some areas though.
Okay, like what? Do you think?
Well, I guess his main concern is just being able to stream as efficiently as possible and not have anything kind of staggering in the backgrounds. But even with that, I don't like. What's your opinion on that processor to be able to stream in game?
I think if he wants to like be a YouTuber as well, which is completely fine for streaming because all you really need to do is like save your recordings and then crop the length of like the game you're playing and then upload it if you want, or if he wants to make highlight videos and get more into video editing because
I don't know whether or not he's gonna want because he'd have to buy it as well unless I pirate it for him. But I don't know. Are you gonna ever be interested in using things like Sony Vegas where you're like actually like mashing up videos and put it on YouTube and like spend like hours and hours on that?
Yeah.
You do want to?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well then, yeah, he does want to be able to do Vegas, which will mean okay. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. But yeah, he does definitely want to use it for Vegas and be able to edit things.
okay.
To some degree. So having either a better CPU that will be able to run that faster, or at least processor, that would be probably the best.
Well, knowing how cost efficient the 5820K is in terms of the high end, I would think his options currently are would you overclock his stuff for him if I got any
Yes.
components? Okay.
Yes, I would.
So I think his options would be a 5820K. And then the next step down from that, I would say, was a 4690K.
Yeah.
Because for $40 less, the 4790K wouldn't really be worth it. Like, you're paying 40 more bucks for 2 cores here, which is like probably between like all the Intel processors one of the most cost efficient jumps you could make.
Yeah,
so I feel like the 5820K is definitely a solid.
When did that come out, by the way? It was last year, right, or this year?
It was like middle end of last year.
Okay.
It's a Haswell E.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
So-
And those are overclocked really easily and pretty stable as well.
Yeah, like I've been seeing people get like this is one of the cheap. Wait, not this one. This motherboard is one of the cheapest LGA 2011-3 motherboards available, and this thing can overclock. I've seen people overclock the 5960X to 4.4 gigahertz on it. So you'll probably have no problem overclocking the 5820K to 4.5, maybe 4.6 on this CPU cooler.
Right.
So I'll just change that
So
59.
also, so why did you choose? Because I've personally used the Asus X99, like the deluxe motherboard. Why did you choose MSI compared to that? Like, is there any purchase this board over the
Well,
other?
reason one is that the X99 Deluxe is not being sold anymore, or that specific X99
okay.
Deluxe.
Okay.
And I looked up the new models for the X99 Deluxe, and for some reason, most of Asus's X99 motherboards, at least according to Newegg, are like 3.5 star motherboards, and people are talking about like really bad quality control issues. Like you see here, there's the X99A, and then let's sort this by best rating.
Right.
So these are like 4 stars, 4 stars, 4 stars, and then you're starting to get into like extremely expensive motherboards that don't have a lot of reviews, and then after 6 products, and one of them's not even a motherboard, all of these are 3 stars. Well,
okay, yeah.
It's not including out of stock stuff. Let me see if I can. But yeah, you get my point. For some reason, like everything that's not these 3, even like the Rampage Extremes are getting 3 stars because people are complaining about QC problems. Maybe there's a possibility that people are just incompetent with their hardware and don't know how to configure it properly, but I don't want to take that risk if that's what people are experiencing to such a degree that it's dropping the average rating down to 3 stars.
Right.
So like even
that's gonna be fine then. Yeah,
like even a lot of games that have, I mean, a lot of hardware that has like QC issues that's like notorious will have like 4 stars. Like a lot of people who complain about the Death Adder 2014, that's still like a 4.5 star mouse on a lot of online retail reviewers.
Yeah, well,
even though
they also market it like hell.
Yeah, but that also means that you have a very large sample size and understand that's like, okay, this thing's been reviewed like 5,000 times over the course of all these retail websites, and 1,000 of them got dead mice, which is not good. But 4.5 is also within like 4.5 stars out of 5 is also within like the margin of error of like, okay, some people think that this product is okay, some people it's just not for them, some people it's like, so you get all these other factors that make a lot of other competing products 4.5 stars. So to me it's like when something's 3 stars, that means awful quality control.
Okay, so in terms of RAM, I don't think he will need 32 gigabytes. Although what would be? I don't think they don't make Ripjaws anymore, or at least the one that I had on mine, right?
No, but they don't make 4. I don't actually no, they make 4 gig sticks, but I don't think. Let's see, 16 gig 4x4s. See, there's 16 gig 4x4s here. But if we were to compare them to let's see, 16 gig 2 8 gig modules, and then 32 gig 4 8 gig modules, and then sort it by price per gig. I'm not seeing 4 gigs except for like, okay, there's PNY Anarchy there, and then there's like, hold on, wait a minute, I don't know how to type. So yeah, like you see, there's a lot of 2x8 gigs and 4x8 gigs that are more cost efficient. Like here, there's 4x4 gig G-Skill value that's costs more per gig than like Corsair Vengeance LPX 2x8 gig modules.
Right.
So they're just like phasing out of popularity and becoming less cost efficient, so you're not seeing them as much.
Okay, so you still feel that it would be necessary to have 32 gigabytes, or
I don't think so personally. I just think that.
Would there be enough of a price difference for it to be worth downgrading to 16? Like, would it be like what would be the difference? Because if it's only like $40-$50 more, I'm sure it's getting 32 and might as well at that point.
Well, let's see if I can find the black Corsair Vengeance LPX specifically. Oh, and DDR4 2400, because that's what the cheapest other one was. I just want to get the exact same RAM.
Yeah.
Oh, whoops. There.
And then looking at the storage, I definitely agree with the Samsung, the Evo. Why the other smaller Intel as well? I'm just curious.
Normally, the way I would feel comfortable having a streaming build is not necessarily the amount of storage, but
right.
I would have probably like a 400 gig or maybe 800 gig, because the prices are going down, Intel 750 series PCI Express SSD to hold my OS and all my games. Okay. And then I would want, actually no, I would probably have a 400 gig Intel S750 series for as a boot drive, and as like
Core applications and stuff.
something like that. But also, I wouldn't want to worry about like certain Steam games that are like my primary Steam games I would have on my boot drive, and then like secondary games I would have on my 2 terabyte. And the reason why is because not necessarily the 2 terabyte, but the boot SSD would have the OS and all the primary games, and then the secondary SSD, regardless of what the storage is, would have secondary games and would be the drive I'm using to save rendered stuff.
Right.
With XSplit. And then I would be using like Shadowplay to record gameplay if I was going to record gameplay, and I would have that saved to my SSD because I don't want.
It's easier to read and access it, so
exactly.
With it.
Exactly, and then because it's also on a secondary solid state drive, I can this solid state drive can just be transferring to these drives, which I actually these are supposed to be 4, but they would be transferring to these drives. But I don't really know how I would set that up. Like whether it would be like a constant transfer or something, because obviously SSDs have like a read and write cycle, and you could kill an SSD very quickly.
Exactly. You don't want to force it too many runs.
Yeah.
The thing is, if you're going with 2 different, you're actually going with 3 different hard drives, why not, in terms of storage for the boot drive, why not stick to like the Samsung 840 Evo and have it as a 1 terabyte, and it'd be a lot cheaper as well as keeping both of the SDs consistent with Samsung, so you'll be able to use their software if needed.
Well, the big thing is that this is the maximum. The only reason this isn't a 1.2 terabyte is because it's not on PC Part Picker for whatever reason. Like the 1.2 terabyte of the same model, even though I can open it right now, and it'll come up on Newegg right here.
Yeah.
Basically, what I would want to do is that if I'm creating the maximum practical computer, I would want my operating system to work as quickly as possible, and I would also want all of my programs saved on C, so your creative suites, your recorders, all that stuff to operate as quickly as possible. I don't want the SSD to bottleneck.
That's not on C, that's the program file.
Yeah.
The computer, yeah.
Yeah, I would want all of that stuff to operate as quickly as possible, and this is the fastest solid state drive available right now that isn't like...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the reason I would put it in there. But if he's not going to be like hustling for Twitch fame or YouTube fame, or like not even like that, but using streaming or content platforms as a way to get exposure to get into the industry a different way.
Well, he does want to build a kind of a career as well as focusing on Twitch a lot as well as YouTube. So that is something that I think he does want to work into. So whether that you think that would be needed for that or not, or even something you'd be able to get later on.
It'd definitely be something that I would get later on, because
so you wouldn't get it right away.
I wouldn't get the 750 series right away. What I would do is probably get a 500 gig or 250 gig 850 Evo.
Why not just get a terabyte one? Because if you are using the Evo for the actual boot up as well as for the programs, having anything less than 500 is just... It's going to be eaten up really quickly.
Well, the reasoning is that...
You want to obviously have all your games that you're running with, especially if you're streaming them on the SSD as well, so that you're getting the efficiency of the SSD.
Yeah, the reasoning behind the 500 gig is that this is something that I would do later. I would buy a 500 gig, try and get into streaming, not get overkill for what I'm going to do. And then if I end up needing more storage, I would buy the 750 series. Clone the 500 gig onto the 750 series because the 850 Evo is smaller. Sell the 500 gig and then buy the 2 terabyte.
Okay, that's also a possibility. Yeah. I'm not sure about selling because obviously the worth of it doesn't continue to decline as time goes by.
I mean, yeah, you could also put it in like a side build, or the other option would be like to make 2 computers, one as a streaming device and one as a gaming device. I've seen some people do that as well.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you would need it.
The other concern is space, because probably having more than one computer, at least in terms of space right now, probably wouldn't be the best. So yeah, I think just focusing on the one computer.
Especially if your primary is going to be an ATX. Exactly. Like if you're going to have 2 computers, I would recommend building 2 mini ITXs.
As well as that's going to heat the room up. Like, are you going to be streaming up here or downstairs?
Up here.
Okay, so yeah, that would make the room hot as hell. Sharing
Yeah.
that much exhaust. Okay.
Well, I mean, my room vents really well.
I know, but like when I have the desktops up in my room as well, and it's a bigger room, the whole room was really, really hot. Yeah, I have even with all the windows open because it's the cooling system it has, and that's tower as well has a lot more air cooling as well, or a lot more vents. Perfect, definitely perfect on the power supply.
Yeah, that's
case.
the maximum I would get for like 2 Titan X's. You could probably put a third
Right.
Titan X in there. But
yeah, so do you still think that's needed even if we aren't doing SLI?
well, the thing is, he was linking me. Okay, I want to show you the monitors he was linking me.
Okay.
Let me open a new
I
window.
Didn't fucking know. I didn't even know there was one 65 hertz yet.
This monitor just came out.
Oh, okay.
So
I was gonna say, yeah.
let me see if I can find the tweet. I have it open in a different window. He was linking me. Should he get the 1080p or the 1440p of this?
Yeah.
And I saw the price of the 1080p one, looked it up, tried to see if it had like FreeSync or G-Sync or anything like that, found out it didn't, and was like, that's a ridiculous price.
Yeah.
This looks like a price that Amazon just made up, because you know how sometimes Amazon will be like, the MSRP of a mouse is $60.
Keep up to date with prices on all other websites as well as the official website.
Yeah, what they'll do is that like the MSRP of a mouse is $60. And it's on sale for $40. Newegg does this too, and sometimes it'll say like the list price is $100, and they're taking 60% off when in reality they're just taking 30% off of a $60 mouse. So they do this quite a lot. So I feel like I'm pretty sure you can find an XL2720Z for less.
Right.
Like see, I see at $400.
Yeah. Exactly.
$339 from B&H. Actually no, that's a XL2430T.
Yeah, but I mean at that point they literally are just little red versions that won't make much difference in terms of performance.
But at the same time, if you're paying $430 for a 1080p monitor, you might as well spend the extra $150 and get 1440p.
Yeah, exactly.
But I didn't put this in there because I know that these are $800, and for $300 extra I would pay for not necessarily the hertz difference, but the feature set difference.
Right.
Because
Republic of Gaming makes really good stuff as well. So
let me see if I can find out if this is a TN or an IPS panel, this specific monitor.
Pretty sure it isn't IPS, because I know most BenQ things aren't.
Yeah, it's a TN panel.
Yeah.
The PG279Q is a 144 hertz, 1440p. I mean 165 hertz, 27-inch, 1440p IPS monitor.
Right.
So this has literally everything but ultra wide. But even then, like the ultra wide 144 hertz monitors that are coming out are 2560 by 1080, which is actually just less vertical space.
Right.
So you might as well get 1440p in that case scenario.
Yeah.
So for that extra money, I would definitely spend on the feature set that the 279Q has.
Right.
So that was the reasoning. But at the same time, I also created the maximum machine. Yeah. And I was like, okay, 2 Titan X's, the 12 gigs of VRAM, can probably run 3 of these on some games, but not all of them. But obviously, if he's not going to be if he's going to have a hard time using like a second monitor for like to have all his monitoring stuff, like monitoring his system temps, having OBS or XSplit.
Definitely going to be using 2 monitors because it's extremely unprofessional not to use one monitor when you're streaming.
Yeah,
you have at least have OBS to be able to make changes or scenes. So
yeah,
definitely
exactly.
2 monitors. Having 2 monitors that are both like special monitors.
As ridiculous as these, yeah.
Well, no, I'm saying is like you definitely obviously need a good monitor for the gaming because that's where the streaming quality is going to come from as well as the game itself when you're viewing it. But having another monitor where you're just using that just display static content, like they open OBS. And
like this wouldn't be cost effective.
You will never, that will never be cost effective.
So the thing I can suggest is that he could get one 24-inch 1080p 144 hertz monitor.
Right.
He'll probably look at the monitor, even though it's a TN panel, and say it's beautiful.
Right.
Like relative to any old hardware he might be having.
Right.
So I can go let's see.
So yeah, so if you're gonna go out, definitely do that from one monitor, but it's not gonna ever be needed for two because there's no
Yeah, exactly.
like no functionality in any form of sense in
So
streaming.
like,
Even when you're doing so like you're doing editing on one screen and something else in the open on the other, you're never gonna really be able to see that.
yeah. So the one
Nor is
thing I was
necessary.
gonna suggest is getting a 24-inch, 144 hertz monitor, and
Okay.
then getting a 1440p, maybe 4K if he feels like he's running out of space. Cheap
Right.
monitor that the video editing can be on,
Okay.
because YouTube doesn't support videos more than 60 FPS anyway, so he doesn't
Yeah,
need
that's
that
true.
hertz to preview video.
Actually, yeah, that's a very good point. I think good for bringing that up. Yeah.
He could also go ultra wide and get a 2560 by 1080 or 3440 by 1440, because I've heard ultra wide is incredible for production.
Right.
And but obviously you would want something that's either size proportionate, so you're gonna have your monitor to the left of this one,
Right.
or you're gonna want something that's not size proportionate, that's above the gaming monitor, that he can just look up at it. I think
I think
personally,
preferably it'd be on the left.
yeah,
Just the
left
way
or right,
room.
yeah.
And
Personally,
plus also when you are in that case, if you have a webcam like a face cam, having to look up constantly, where it's a lot less natural than having to look to the side, where your eyes can move, whereas usually you have to like tilt your head up, and it'd look awkward when you're streaming.
yeah, exactly,
In control of things.
yeah. So let's look at let's sort this by price.
Okay.
So if we're talking about minimal stuff,
It
this
doesn't have to be the most minimal thing, but just a decent monitor. Like even anything fine. I mean, at that point, you might as well we can always just go to Best Buy and they have 100 on
So we
monitor.
have extra ones lying on the house.
Yeah, we have plenty of on monitors. Just making sure that the main
I
primary
just think,
monitor.
yeah, the main monitor needs to be nice, and then the second monitor we can worry about later.
Yeah, so if he said the second monitor, I'm sure the second monitor really doesn't matter. It's just getting because we can always get that. We have also plenty of them around the house. We just to be able to have little utilities open for streaming. Just making sure the primary monitor is going to run efficiently with the GPU as well as everything else.
okay.
That's all that really matters. So yeah, what I'd probably do is I'd probably keep the 165 hertz that is currently there, and then a secondary monitor, not as to actually get an addition, but the second the second recommendation you'd have for in terms of monitors, just as an alternative. If he doesn't want to go all out for, for that.
The recommendation would definitely be this monitor
Okay, I
currently.
think I saw that
Like
as
if
well.
you're gonna buy the stuff now,
Right.
not at this price.
Yeah. I would say.
This is a 1080p 144 hertz. It's basically like gaming standard for monitors. And
Right.
since this isn't also going to be your video editing monitor at the same time, you can stick with having this monitor not have certain features like being an IPS display. So you
Right.
don't need to worry about color accuracy. Not having as many inputs as video editing monitors, where you might want to preview through certain different devices how the video looks. Like, okay, I'm going to render the video. I have one thing connected to the HDMI and one thing connected to the DVI. I want to see how it looks.
Right.
Which it most likely will look the same, but it's like there's feature sets that are more tailored towards video editors that this monitor doesn't have.
Right.
But he doesn't need it as a primary gaming monitor. Also, this would save him $500.
Yeah, exactly.
As a primary
that
display.
definitely would be probably a good choice because I'm pretty sure he's going into this with no video editing experience. You don't know how to use Vegas, right?
Literally zero, but I have
Very-
Brian.
Very little. Okay, well,
Still major.
I know how to do this as well. So yeah, he's from the very beginning, he's not gonna have any experience. So having a build focused on video editing probably won't be the best. So better molding it more towards gaming as well as streaming would be the best bet for now. If he does, once he does get a hang of it, and he wants to have a couple more, a nicer to upgrade to things, well, that could probably work out as well.
All right. I have a Acer GN246HL, which is a little bit slower in terms of overall response time,
Right.
but it's negligible because I'm not gaming competitively
Right.
currently. And what I plan on doing is getting a monitor like this one, which is a 25-inch ultra-wide 1080p monitor,
Right.
and I personally plan on putting it either above this current monitor, depending on how much desk space I have, or
Right.
to the left, because my computer's to the right, and I'm very anal about airflow in a computer,
Yeah,
so I
right.
do not want it under my desk.
Oh. Okay.
So he could use something like this as a video editing unit, But if he's going to end up wanting like, okay, I want colors that I don't see. I want color support to such a degree that I don't see these colors in real life.
Right.
Like these extremely vibrant
Explosive.
reds, yellows, blues, stuff like that.
Right.
He's gonna end up spending hundreds of dollars on a monitor that's just good for video editing anyway.
Right.
But it's all about color accuracy, not necessarily color support. So when it comes to that stuff, we're talking about monitors with good internal hardware and good configurations that he's going to be spending on. He's not necessarily going to see it in the monitor's I/O or anything like that, but he'll see it when he turns it on.
Okay, gotcha.
So he might end up spending more than $150 on a video editing monitor in the future if he ends up getting into that. But this, I think, is a great base.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like at the point, because since it would be the secondary monitor, having another monitor that we have around here just the time being until he has to, because it would only be $150 to start with 200. It wouldn't be the biggest deal.
Yeah, and I can also look up. There's a website that lets you see a relative scale of this is what it's called.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
It's like 24-inch 1080p versus 25-inch 21.9, and this is like what it would look like. So like if you have a 24-inch 1080p display anywhere, like in your vision, you can look at that and then be able to like mathematically proportion how big this monitor is. Even though it's ultra wide, you realize that it's only like it even shows here, it's 2 inches wider, and it's 2 inches shorter.
Yeah.
Just about.
Right.
So there's going to be room for it. Is essentially what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
And you're not gonna have to worry about because I know some channels that are like they're eyeing like 40-inch 4K monitors because obviously the problem with 4K monitors that are like 27 inches is that you have to upscale the text, and even then some software doesn't support the upscaled Windows text. 40-inch 4K is almost the same pixel density as 1440p 27-inch displays, which is a higher pixel density than 24-inch 1080p. So the point I'm trying to get at is that they're looking at 40-inch 4K monitors, so there's no compatibility issues with software. And it also feels like there's much more room than using a smaller 4K monitor because your eyes become a factor in that regard. So that might end up being the stuff he looks at for his video editing monitor in the future.
Okay.
But until then, I think this is what I would suggest using. Just something that's...
Is that currently on... Is that the one you already have on the list right now?
Yeah, that's the one I have on the list.
Okay.
I took off the 279Qs and put these two on.
Okay, perfect.
So
would you still agree on removing the SLI, the other two, for now?
Oh, yes. I would probably actually... the one thing that's difficult about the Titan X is that in the future, you would definitely want... two Titans for streaming, especially if we start getting to the point where internet connections are getting faster, YouTube and Twitch start supporting 4K, people start streaming at 4K. You're going to need the graphics to stay competitive in terms of the viewing experience. So it's kind of difficult to say we can downgrade from the Titan X when there's a possibility that 2 years from now the 980 Ti won't be a viable card because it doesn't have enough VRAM for streaming. You know what I mean? Especially if a couple years from now we could be looking at 144 hertz 4K displays and stuff like that. Like the amount of unknowns are increasing, and it makes me feel like the Titan X is the safe card currently, because I feel like 12 gigs of VRAM will be fine 2 years from now, because most games at 4K 60 hertz aren't using more than like GTA 5 at max settings 4K is using like 7 gigs of VRAM in some benchmarks, I think. So chances are, and GTA 5 is known for being one of the highest VRAM hogs out of AAA titles. So chances are, 2-3 years from now, even when we get to a point where YouTube and Twitch are supporting 4K, a Titan X will still have enough VRAM. So personally,
I just realized that it takes up 12 as well, which I'm impressed. Mine only takes up like 4 or something, or 8. Yeah.
And then even then, you could, if you wanted to like save a couple $100 here and there, trying to buy cheaper, you can go to EVGA's B stock website. you see here, it's Titan X for $850, and shipping is $5 regardless of what you get on their B stock.
Okay.
So it's an $855 Titan X that's may have small scratches, dents, noticeable use, which are factory recertified. So some of them are refurbished, some of them are used, some of them have damaged packaging. It's kind of like Amazon.
Would you feel that's kind of a risk factor at that point?
I think the 1-year warranty as a streamer would make this not worth it, but as a gamer, it's still worth it.
I mean, 1-year warranty on anything, especially with a car like that, is a bit. I mean, I guess that's normal, but still.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, you're only saving here $150 about.
Yeah, you might
but it's like, but if you're someone who's really money conscious and you're like, I could save $100 on every one of these parts, and then I end up saving $1,000. If you're really money conscious with that logic, then you might want to look into like buying some high-end hardware as cheap as you possibly can. But aside from that, I would just buy everything new.
Okay, yeah, lots of recommended.
So
in terms of the storage, I don't think that many hard drives would be necessary. I definitely agree on having at least one of the 3 terabyte hard drives.
Yeah.
But having one on it for every slot probably isn't necessary.
The 750D has comes with 6.
Okay.
The 3.5-inch drive cages and 2 SSD cages.
Right.
And my logic was going to be that I told them, like, if you're streaming, especially if you start getting into streaming and investing is worth it, you're going to want primary storage, secondary storage, redundant local storage, redundant external storage, and then possibly cloud storage. Like you want like 3 or 4 redundant copies of all of your data in case your YouTube or Twitch channel gets like kaput because of any automated bot that like thinks, oh, this person's breaking the rules because my bot can read this, banned, but he might not be guilty in that sense. And then he's like, oh no, I lost all my YouTube videos. Good thing I have them 4 times over in case, like, worst case scenario, my YouTube gets banned. And then one of my hard drives fail, which means that I lose all of my data, but I still have it backed up one more time. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, it's the best safety net you can get, which is why I had 4 3 terabytes, but he could run 2 3 terabytes in RAID 1, I think it is, which means that he would effectively have back 3 terabytes of usable storage, where the other 3 terabytes of backup. So,
but the way I look at it is, I definitely agree on having 2 of them. The reason is because obviously hard drives, as literally every year, more space will become cheaper, or at least the same price as what more space was before. So in the case of, if he does to the point where he is kind of getting bottlenecked by the amount of space he has, then he can just easily go to the store and actually probably get a better deal at that time for a bigger hard drive and just easily pop it in and you're all set in that case. Because I don't think right away he's going to be really working with that many large files, even if he is going into editing. Because being fair, it'll probably take at least a month for him to get used to Vegas.
Yeah.
And in that amount of time, it really won't be necessary to really go full force into getting a full-on hard drive
like
setup.
a NAS.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So, you think 2 3 terabytes in RAID 1 was a good idea? Yeah,
because that should be fine. Because obviously having one that's just redundant in case the other one fails, especially where you are working with large files, you don't want to be in a case where you do lose those things.
Yeah.
No, I definitely still agree with the 850. I'm fine with that. Is just having having more than 2 standard hard drives is probably isn't necessary.
The only thing I was considering doing was downing the storage on the 850 Evo.
That could work too.
Because that could save him money because I think if you're getting into streaming, not only would selling the SSD in the future be cost effective, in the sense that you're going to make some money back, but also SSDs are going to continue to dramatically drop in price. So who knows? Maybe he could have, instead of spending $600 on a 2 terabyte SSD, he could spend $78 on a 250 gig SSD, sell it when he wants more storage, and by the time that comes around, the 2 terabyte SSD will cost $200. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and then the net gain is $400 there.
Right.
In terms of like financially calculating it. So I feel like 250 or 500 is a good idea here.
Okay.
Do you
I'd probably stick with the 500 just because 250 just regardless of whether it is in terms of if it's just like a standard use kind of thing, 250 can go will go a distance, but when you are working with large files that can be eaten up really quickly, as well as if he takes up the entire space on the boot drive, or if he doesn't want to use that as the storage for the games, he wants to store it on the SD as what instead. That would some games can be at 50 to 100 gigabytes, especially the newer ones, and which would go by, and having a whole hard drive take up only 2-3 or 2-3 games take up a whole hard drive is just silly. So definitely would say a 500 on that.
Yeah, I agree. I had a
It's a
250 gig in my laptop, and I had a 1 terabyte external, and I felt like I was already beginning to run out of space on there, so I returned the 250 gig, got a 500 gig, and now I can open my computer right now.
Yeah.
And I have 164 gigs free, and even then I have another 250 gig for videos. Right here. Okay. So it's like I think 500 gigs is a good idea for a primary drive, especially because one detail I forgot is that I think its write speeds go up between 120, 240, or 125, 250, and 500 gig drives.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
But after 500 gigs, it's about stagnant. So 500 gigs is also like the max performance drive until you get into like PCIe in terms of cost effectiveness.
Right.
So we did the CPU. We're okay with the CPU cooler. We're okay with the motherboard. We didn't finish talking about the RAM. So
well, I mean, since the graphics card is using 12 of it, I mean, honestly, having 16 would be stupid. So having 32 is needed anyway. So it's not, that's a pretty particularly young. Yeah.
Yeah. My logic behind 16 gigs
you can't really get away with 4 gigabytes left over at that point.
Yeah. I think my logic with the RAM is that if I didn't have a Titan X, I have a 980 Ti. If I had a Titan X, I would probably have 32. I'd probably be looking to try and get 32. But another argument you could make is, well, if they get 16 gigs of RAM at $95, obviously RAM prices stagnate after a while. But so far, I haven't seen DDR4 stop dropping in price. So there's a possibility that he could get a second 16 gig kit for less, which would then be like, that would save him like enough money for a decent meal somewhere or something like that.
Well, I mean, RAM is, RAM GPU and CPU are kind of the cornerstones. So having that as a secure base isn't really that much of an issue. So there's nothing wrong with getting 32.
Okay.
Especially with what it is.
Especially for $100 at the price that we're paying for this.
Exactly. I mean, there's some things you can't really avoid paying for.
Now, moving on to the case, in terms of the Corsair 750D is what I chose, and my reasoning was that it has enough drive storage. It comes with 3 fans, so all you would need to do is put in the CPU cooler, and all the fan slots are full.
I have literally, I think, like one model off of that. It's just it's not the airflow one, but I do have a Corsair cases on mine as well. So I definitely agree on that.
I'm currently using a 300R that I plan on upgrading to a 750D or maybe an NZXT H440. It just depends on what happens in the future. So
yeah, I'm using the 750D ATX Corsair full tower. So definitely on Corsair.
Now, in terms of internals, there are 2 cases that are internally exactly the same as the 750D, and that's the 760T and the 780T, and I can show you those right now. Because cases, it's more like
well, you're gonna be paying at least 75 to 100, minimum on a case anyway.
Yeah, so what you're looking for in a case, especially if you're gaming and streaming, is like, I want airflow, I want drive support, and I want
space for the components as well.
I want modularity.
Right.
So it's like most cases nowadays have those things. So it's more like, okay, now we're starting to get into like cosmetics and preference with that, and then like what cosmetics we would put in the case in conjunction with other parts. So this part might take a while depending on how much of a fashionista your friend is.
Do you care how the case looks though? Like in terms of like if it looks nice, or you just want it to work?
I would prefer for it to look nice.
Do you like how mine is downstairs, where you can like see inside of it, and like all the fans are colored and stuff like that?
Yeah, like that's cool. I mean, it doesn't have to be like that, but just something that looks nice. It doesn't need to be like see-through or anything in particular.
Okay, well that's typically what they have these days. So wait, is the current case you have right now on the list a full tower or mid?
All these are
So-
full towers.
Okay, yeah, I was saying like it would have to be a full tower.
Yeah,
But
like
I think that's a really good choice for a case, definitely.
yeah. But one thing I do want to do is that I want to look through some more cases just to see like if there's a case that he wants that's like cosmetically perfect for him,
Right.
like it suits his taste. Like all these cases are internally the same.
I mean, the 760T you have right there is a lot more similar to the one I have.
Yeah.
And that one has really, really, really good ventilation.
Like you look at this. Like the only difference is that there's
Yeah.
2 hard drive cages. You put this cage
Right.
down here, and it's effectively the same as a 760T.
Right. Well, the 760T is also designed more for SDs as well. Like it has that kind of like cutout area.
Yeah, and it's also I prefer the 750D cosmetically over the 760T, mostly because I not only do I think it looks better, but I'm not going to use the disc slots.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah,
if I were, I would definitely go with the 760T because you already know.
Yeah. Exactly.
That you remove this, the drive cage, the disc drive cage isn't as wide as this, so it like cosmetically cripples the case.
Yeah. Exactly.
So let's look through some other stuff in terms of cases. Let's
Go back to the list for a second. I'm just trying to think what else. So there really isn't anything that we haven't looked into yet.
We haven't looked at the power supply, which we might.
The power supply. I mean, like I have, I think the exact same one possibly on mine. If not,
Okay.
yeah, I think or let's see, what do I have on mine? I have, yeah, I have a 1,000 watt instead of 1,200 watt, which is,
Okay.
I think, how much difference is it? It's
200 watts.
yeah, so it's about $50 difference. I mean, it doesn't really matter.
In the case of a Titan X,
Mhm.
a 1,000 watt, you would probably not get more than 2 Titan X's in there.
Right.
A 1,200 watt, you'd be able to get 3 Titan X's in there, but then you would have like less than 100 watts of headroom, which is fine.
Right. So
Which is fine, but your power supply would be loud.
Right. So for that's $70 might as well because it lets you build it in the future as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's fine.
And also I specifically chose the EVGA Supernovas because these come with 10-year warranties, I believe.
Yeah.
Which is
I think mine was an 8-year warranty as well.
yeah,
So,
you're not going to need to buy another power supply unless you have this thing permanently on for more than 10 years. It says 10-year warranty, but it might last 15.
Yeah.
At the same time, you could get a lemon and it might last 5.
Yeah.
But it's still very also after seeing I was someone when I was getting into computer hardware where I didn't understand aside from like 80 plus certification why you would spend so much more on the power supplies. So I was doing a lot of research. I was reading a ton of Johnny Guru reviews and stuff like that, trying to understand the internals of a power supply to understand that what you would like to look for in terms of a power supply that you just look at it and you're like, this thing's gonna last forever. It's a tank. You know what I mean? It could your transformer near your house could get struck by lightning and your computer will be fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And speaking of that, I'm gonna get into something in a second. After we're done with the computer build entirely. We haven't covered a keyboard, a mouse, headset, any sound cards if you wanted any sound cards, speakers. If you want a different case, fans, fan controllers, other aesthetics like lights, like that stuff we still need to go over.
Right.
But that shouldn't take as long as the rest of this build has, because we've been talking for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Well, I think in that sense, I would probably talk to him because those things won't affect the actual performance.
Yeah, exactly.
It's more aesthetic. So.
Though I have to ask you, has he used your keyboard before?
Okay, so yeah, so I personally, even though I own everything Razer, I've been kind of pushing him towards possibly checking out the Corsair stuff, the brand new suite they just released.
Yeah.
Because he likes the feel of the Razer, because I have the Razer Chroma, the Death Adder, and he likes the feel of it, especially as well as the keys.
Do you have the green switch or the orange switch?
I think I have whatever the latest model was.
Let me look it up here.
Yeah, I got
Chroma.
it.
It's probably the green switch version. Because the orange switch version is the Chroma Stealth.
It's the loud one.
Okay, it's the Chroma.
Yeah.
And what does he think about the feel of it?
He likes how it is.
Okay, because one thing about mechanical keyboards that people don't understand, especially people who are just like in esports and they get sponsored by a company that has a gaming-oriented mechanical keyboard, is that the switch that's right for you can take forever to find.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
We think he'd prefer Cherry because I'm not sure whether that's what Razer has or not.
Razer switches are made by Kale, which is a
Okay.
Chinese company, but I heard quality control is managed by Razer, as opposed to Kale. But ultimately, Razer greens are about feel about the same as Cherry MX blues, unless you start really getting to the nuances and pet peeves that mechanical keyboard enthusiasts have. People who aren't mechanical keyboard enthusiasts will probably not understand or feel a significant difference between the Razer green switches and the Cherry MX blue switch.
Right.
The Razer orange switch is like Cherry MX browns, and they don't have one that's like Cherry MX reds, which a lot of people consider like the optimal gaming one because there's nothing in terms of hardware that's holding you back. Like some people think that a bump, I dropped something. So people will think something like a bump will hold them back by enough of a degree to where it can be factored in. Say they timed something absolutely perfectly, like to the millisecond, like the optimal timing versus the human timing is within a millisecond, but then that bump makes it 2 milliseconds and then they miss because of it. Like they want to avoid that kind of stuff. But I don't think, but that's like an extreme competitive gaming plus computer hardware understanding scenario. And I feel like there's very, 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 very few people that would care. You know what I mean?
Probably not.
Like, their human error outweighs the hardware error by such a degree that they don't need to worry about that. So in that sense, most mechanical keyboard users, it's a matter of what feels the best. So a question that I have to ask for him is that when he used your keyboard, did he think it felt too light? Did he want it to be lighter? Did he want it to be heavier? Did he think it felt just right?
I think he. Did you like the way that my keyboard downstairs was? What are your complaints?
I like it. I think something a little bit sturdier would be nice, though.
Okay. And I should be right back in a sec. So I'm going to talk to him. All the actual components on the computer are kind of though. So right now it's just all the kind of minor details.
Yeah, that's not. I can talk to him about all this stuff.
Okay, yo.
Okay, so you wanted something with somewhat better build quality.
Yeah.
When you pressed the keys, did you think that it required too much force? Did you feel like your hands were getting fatigued? Or anything like that?
No, that felt fine.
Are you the kind of person that like smacks the shit out of your keyboard and like it's basically like and you're like one of those people that raise their hands like 5 or 6 inches above their keyboard before they press a key and then they smack. It's like, because like there's some people that are touch typists and the keyboard sounds like this.
No.
And then there's some people like me, I think I type average.
Yeah.
And then there's some people that are like constantly.
No, I'm not that guy.
So like you're in the middle with that?
Exactly.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is try and explain to you mechanical switches, which is extremely difficult because you can understand them, but it's about feeling them that determines whether you like them or not.
Hold on, before we continue.
Yeah?
Are you available to talk like, I don't know, tomorrow or another time this week as well?
I might be. I have work on Wednesday, and I have work on Friday, and tomorrow, and well, today, it's 1:30 here. I have to wake up early.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, because I have to be up at like 5:45, like 6 a.m. tomorrow, so I really need to go to bed.
Okay.
What do you call it? Is there like a time or day that you want to shoot for that works for you?
If we can talk tomorrow, chances are I'll be available.
Okay, for sure, that works perfect.
All right. So I can say that we went through this entire part of the build.
Mm-hmm.
And we just need to look at we need to finalize case CPU cooler after we talk about like aesthetics. And then we need to finalize keyboard, mouse, and headset.
Okay.
I'm just saying this in the recording to remind myself.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So yeah, I guess I'll talk to you tomorrow then.
Dude, and by the way, once again, man, thank you so much. Like, I would be super lost without you.
Don't worry about it. I appreciate your thanks. So you know, um, when we started talking, this computer was $7,913,
Uh-huh.
and with a keyboard, mouse, and headset, there's a chance that it could have been over $8,000.
Yeah.
We brought that build down to $2,900.
Okay.
So we've taken about $5,000 off the build, which is really easy when you're talking about hardware this expensive.
Hmm.
But some people need it, you know.
Yeah.
Especially to answer questions, especially when you get like the common community questions, like how's 165 hertz, and it's like, I don't know, I never needed it, so I never bought it, and then they're like, I'm unsubscribing because of that. Like people
Yeah.
like, you have to like avoid as many circumstances as possible. So some people need all this hardware for many very nuanced reasons, and so far we've been able to shave $5,000 of nuance that you're
Yeah.
not going to be concerned of off of your computer.
Definitely. Do you think we'll be shaving off more, or do you think this is about the
I
best
think
we're gonna get?
we might actually be going up by up to $300 from here on.
Okay.
But this is how much this specific computer would cost.
Okay.
We might go down and up depending on like if we end up finding a case that you think is aesthetically nicer and it has similar features, and then but it costs less, or you want a CPU cooler that's cosmetically different, might happen to be on sale, something lucky, that'll cost less too. And then like depending on what peripherals you get, that can happen too. So yeah.
All right. Sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, dude. I really appreciate it. Good luck getting up tomorrow.
Yeah, I have to get up in 7 hours. So,
Oh,
I mean,
goodness.
less than 7 hours.
I
but
don't envy you.
I think I'll be able to run on 7 hours of sleep. But
Yeah, definitely. I think it kind of works out for both of us then.
yeah.
Alright, dude. Well, have a great night, man. Thank you so much. I'll be in touch.
Yeah, you too.
Alright, buddy. Take care.
So, this is going to be a cut. I'm going to go from talking here to talking to them the following day we talk about peripherals, the computer, and the CPU cooler. Chances are I might end up having to cut this video into multiple parts, but I'll try and do my best to separate it so that it's not like cutting off randomly 10 minutes in while we're talking. I'm going to try to avoid that. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.